You spot several humanoid bodies, and something shining in the sun catches your attention. Yeah, but whatever it is, it's surrounded by several dozen massive dinosaurs. Pass.
Yep, let's give them a wide berth and continue onward.
A green glow filters through the ferns and trees ahead of you.
I don't know, this looks dangerous.
Indeed, let's find somewhere else to camp. Sitting at the table in the chamber are 3 kobolds.
Oh, they're so cute. Can we adopt them?
You're not even there. The rogue sneaked in alone.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just sneak right back out.
When he gets back out, I ask him what he found.
Terrible monsters. Time to move on.
Oh.
Let's just travel back to town, guys. Indeed.
Holy crap! That game session sucked!
Yeah, it's like there was nothing to do.
Hello folks, welcome to the DM Lair. I'm Lucar, and on this channel I share my nearly 30 years of Game Master experience so that you can run amazing games that your players will love. Recently, after one of my game sessions, I was thinking to myself that the game was kind of lackluster that evening. It just wasn't a lot of fun. I was befuddled at first, but as I thought about it, I began to realize why the game wasn't as fun as I would have liked. So we're gonna talk about that game session, what happened, and the lessons I think we can learn from it. By the way, our next Kickstarter, Dungeon Drifters, launches soon. And I'm really excited about this one because we're making our own board game. It's a competitive dungeon exploration game where opportunistic heroes race to defeat enemies, pocket the most loot, and escape the dungeon first. We've designed the game so that you can start playing in under 10 minutes. Just pick a dungeon, select your characters, populate the first room, and you're ready to go. With streamlined rules, it's perfect for playing with friends and family, casual gamers, or even at parties. Each character has their baseline martial and magical skill, and then as you ransack the dungeon, your skill grows. Each monster you slay gives you more loot, more power, and a unique ability to help yourself or hinder your friends. Plunder the dungeon for all its riches and become the most powerful drifter of all. Dungeon Drifter launches this spring, and we're giving away a free monster mini and their loot drop to all our VIP signups. Click the link below to learn more. Okay, so the game session. My players were investigating a Lamania manifest zone known as the Wild Growth. It's an area overgrown with massive trees and vegetation and filled with dinosaurs, which is why they were there. They had been tasked with capturing a live T-Rex and bringing it back alive. That's why it's a live T-Rex that you bring back alive. You capture it alive and you bring it back alive to the halflings in Frostmantle. Make sure we're clear on the fact that it's supposed to be alive. As they delve into the wild growth, they are ambushed by a large pack of Dionychuses. I think it's Dionychuses. It might be Dionychus, I don't know. Anyway, those are the ones from Jurassic Park that they erroneously called velociraptors. It's Hollywood, what are you gonna do? Velociraptors are like these little chicken-sized dinosaurs. Dionychus is the big one with the big talons and stuff on their feet that they want to kill you thing, you know, the clever girls, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, after they defeat the Dionychuses, murdering them all and sending one of them fleeing, they encounter a massive herd of Ankylosaurus. Those are the ones, you know, with like from your ankles and stuff. I'm wearing socks. Yeah, my feet aren't like more white than the rest of me. Anyway, Ankylosaurus, those things are like basically 25 feet long armored tanks, and there were dozens of them. However, in the midst of the herd of these ankle dinosaurs, my players spotted several bodies, corpses. Now, my players could not see this from their vantage point, but there was some decent loot on the bodies. Now, I wasn't expecting my players to fight dozens of these dinosaurs, of course. That would be silly and a slog. You see, my intent here was for my players to be able to explore the wild growth and encounter a variety of challenges and situations, basically trying to hit all 3 pillars of gameplay. We had just had a combat, the Dionychuses, and so it was time for something a bit different. In this scene, the dynamic question was, can the heroes investigate and or loot the corpses despite the presence of a herd of dinosaurs? Oh, I forgot to mention, one of these corpses was still alive, heavily wounded but alive, and could have given them useful information about the T-Rexes they were hunting. However, my players decided to just go around the herd of ankylo dinosaurs, which is fair, right? I mean, they are in an open world. Just going around an obstacle is almost always an option. And I'm not the sort of GM to say no and limit their agency in that respect. If they want to just skip what is clearly a plot point or point of interest or something possibly interesting, I'm not going to get in the way. After that, they entered a forested area where the T-Rex nested. They ended up finding its nest along with 7 eggs. At that point, their plan shifted to just stealing the eggs for the halflings, but as you might expect, the T-Rex was nearby and attacked. However, there was also a second T-Rex that joined the combat after a few rounds, so they got to fight 2 T-Rexes. It was a decent combat, but my dice rolled horribly, so it was a bit underwhelming and my player's path to victory was a bit easier than I would have liked. But hey, that's just the way it goes sometimes. I have no problems with that. I would have liked to have hurt them a little bit more, but you know, some things aren't meant to be. Then my players made off with the eggs and started to look for a place to rest. Now, technically, they probably didn't even need a rest. This was actually a Pathfinder 2 game, and getting all healed up between combats is fairly trivial as long as the players build their characters for it, and mine absolutely did. But I don't fault them for that because I can run a challenging game. So they were all at full hit points after a 10-minute or so break to treat wounds. The spellcasters were just mostly out of spells. That was really the only resource they were lacking on at that point. Anyway, as they traveled, they came upon a part of the forest where a green glow filtered through the overgrown ferns and trees. They identified it as not being a natural phenomenon and decided to go to a different direction and continue to look for a suitable place to rest. So, to put you in my game designer head at this point, we've now had 2 back-to-back combats in the game session, separated by a period of, in my opinion, uninteresting decision-making and a few skill checks. That means we need something different and perhaps even exciting. So it was time for lore. You see, the source of that glow my players saw was the Verdant Nexus, a warped hardwood staff with a glowing crystal tip that was planted in the ground. This staff once belonged to Thalvian Greentide, a powerful druid from the Elden Reaches who fell in battle protecting this grove from aberrations of Kyber. And this staff now served as a powerful source of magic that in fact created the Lamania Manifest Zone. Furthermore, my players might have also learned that the staff could be uprooted to cause the Manifest Zone to disappear and then planted somewhere else to cause a Manifest Zone to appear over there, somewhere in the world, anywhere really. I have no idea if this would have been useful at all to them and they might have just left the staff there. However, the purpose was to have an interesting point of interest for them to discover and learn about. This is the sort of thing that brings your world to life, and it also breaks up the monotony of combat after combat. However, my players decided to skip it. I think they thought the green glow was threatening and they didn't really want to fight anything at that point, but whatever, they moved on. And they really wanted to rest somewhere. So as my players were searching for a place to rest, they found a ravine with a cave entrance. The rogue sneaked in and found 3 kobolds sitting around a table. I described very clearly that although kobolds often trended toward bad behavior, evil, shall we say, they were motivated much more by shiny loot and subservience to a greater power. Which could possibly be my players or something. I don't know, just throwing that out there. Now, I really wanted to have something besides combat in this game session because I know it makes for a better game when there is some variety. So here, I was trying for a social interaction, some good old talky. Those kobolds were predisposed to be friendly. Yes, I'm the game master, I can do that, and would have invited the adventurers to rest in their cave complex. Furthermore, these kobolds were worshippers of the Verdant Nexus, the druid's staff, and could have told the players about it. Yep, I was still trying to slip in that lore because I know it makes the world a more vibrant and interesting place. However, the rogue just sneaked right back out of the cave and the group decided to just move on. Now, to be fair, I did describe there as being more tunnels and told them that kobolds breed like rabbits, which is all true, and there were usually quite a few of kobolds when you found them, not just like 3, there's usually a bunch of them. So I do think I was kind of shooting myself in the foot with that, but you need to understand, my players were level 6, and kobolds are like a level 1 monster, maybe? I think they're even less than that. And that sort of level discrepancy in Pathfinder 2 means the kobolds probably wouldn't even be able to hit the characters with their attacks, much less do any sort of meaningful damage. Another thing I think I screwed up is that I should have just given them a safe place to rest before presenting them with the green glow or the kobold cave. Then they would have had all their resources, like their spells and stuff. They would have felt all secure and happy, right? And then they may have been more inclined to investigate and talk. But it's like 2020 hindsight. Like, what are you gonna do? At any rate, at this point, my players decided to just force march back to town. I think they thought I was trying to prevent them from resting or something, and they were just saying, screw it. But I wasn't, I really wasn't. I just wanted to have something else in the game besides combat. But I wasn't done with them quite yet. I had struck out 3 times, but I was determined to have something besides combat in the game session. So I had them come across the same clearing where the herd of ankylo dinosaurs had been, only that they were gone. I was hoping that my player, and probably praying too, right? That my players would decide to check out the corpses I had described earlier, and thankfully they did. Only my benevolence had evaporated at this point. So as they searched the bodies, I'm not super benevolent as it is, I don't think. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not as horrible as I lead people on to believe, but I don't know. Anyway, as they searched the bodies, I described them as having been heavily trampled. Then they found a bunch of gold coins, like many of them bent, I might add, an iron cube all twisted and out of shape, and a coffer full of broken vials. Those were literally magic items that they could have obtained had they investigated the corpses earlier. However, the battle with the T-Rexes, whose battle cries echoed for miles around, had caused the ankylo dinosaurs to stampede and destroy them. I think that's the official name now. Instead of ankylosauruses, we're just gonna call them ankle dinosaurs. That's much more efficient and easier to say. Now, maybe this was just me being a little bit of a jerk, but I felt it was necessary to inject some consequences, some realism, shall we say. Like, they still got the gold, a decent amount of gold, I might add, but the magic items had been destroyed. This was their loot, lost because they decided to skip the scene, so to speak. Which is fair. As I said, I had no problem with that, but there needed to be some ramifications, I felt at the time. Maybe I was wrong. So at the end of the day, the adventure they went on had consisted almost entirely of combat. And I think adventures like that suck. I've been in lots of them before. I've ran some like that before, and they're not super strong. So after the game session was over, I was disappointed. I think it could have been way more interesting and exciting than it turned out to be. But as a game master, what can I do when my players ostensibly are skipping the content? Now, as I said, I'm not willing to take player agency away and force them to do a thing. In my games, the players have quite a bit of freedom, and that freedom includes skipping stuff. The problem, though, is that skipping stuff can easily turn what might have been an awesome adventure into a lame one. And to be clear, I don't blame my players for this. When I put myself in their shoes, I think their decisions made sense in character. Why confront a herd of tank-like dinosaurs? Why investigate a green glow when we already have the T-Rex eggs and the wizard has no spell slots? Why interact with the kobolds when we can just move on and find somewhere else to rest? So I don't blame them. I think I understand why they did what they did. Now, interestingly enough, I'm pretty sure one of my players recognized the content skipping during the game session. He's both an experienced game master and experienced player, like very experienced, both ends. And by the look on his face, I'm pretty sure he knew that I was trying to present game elements only to have the group insist on skipping them. Now, there were a couple of times I think he was probably close to literally biting his tongue to not say something. I could see him start to say something and kind of be like, I'm not gonna say anything. Now, I'm sure he had his motivations and reasons for keeping silent, but I suspect that he could, at a meta, high level, see what was going on, right? And I don't blame him, nor anyone else at the table. There's no blame here. If anyone is to blame, I would accept that blame, as I could have structured the adventure better, I think. This is just me talking through the game session, what happened, and how the content skipping made for an inferior game session. An unfortunate fact can be stated without assigning blame. And as I said, I made some missteps as well. So, what is my point then? Believe it or not, I have a point. I probably have a point. I should probably get to the point. As I was thinking about the game session and analyzing what happened and what may have gone wrong, something occurred to me. The content skipping, and I say content skipping as though it's like an accusatory thing against them, and I don't really mean it that way. It's just kind of a statement of fact at a meta level, if that makes sense. So please don't take that term to mean that I'm accusing them or blaming them, because I'm not meaning it that way. It's just like, it's the best way to describe what was happening, if that makes sense. But anyway, the content skipping was largely made possible because the adventure took place in a large, wide open area, rolling grasslands, and a small forest. If the adventure had taken place in an enclosed area, such as a castle or a townhouse or a sewer system, it would have been much harder to bypass these scenes. I'm sure that I've talked about this before, but there are lots of advantages of running adventures in enclosed locations that we generally just refer to as dungeons. However, now that I go through my back catalog of videos, I'm not sure I have done one on them. So if you want a video on why dungeons are amazing and solve probably 90% of every Game Master problem, let me know in the comments. The question though remains, how do you run an adventure in an open area, an above ground location with no walls and structure to it, and not have players just skip everything that doesn't directly relate to their quest objective? And I don't know if I have the answer to that right now. Kind of like a sucky Game Master advice YouTuber person. I don't have the answer to the main problem of the video, which begs the question, what am I even doing here? Anyway, don't forget to sign up for Dungeon Drifters at the link below and lay claim to a bonus miniature and the loot they drop. Remember, VIP signups get the mini and loot drop for free. Now, if you'd like to learn about one of the best TTRPGs I've ever played, watch this video right here. And until next time, happy game mastering. I don't know what I'm doing with this.